We interrupt our program to bring you this important message.
At Grave's End is the third book in Jeaniene Frost's urban fantasy paranormal romance series, the Night Huntress series. It was released in 2008 and has consistently been reviewed positively ever since. For me, it was a sexy thrill ride which had no problem keeping me at the edge of my seat. We get to see how Kat navigates the vampire world now that her cover has been blown. We also get to see how her relationship with Bones evolved now that they are married. We even get to see much more of the dynamic cast of characters. Hold on to your seat and enjoy the steaminess, the sexiness, the thrill that At Grave's End has in store. When we meet back up with Kat, our favorite vampire-human hybrid, and Bones, our favorite master vampire, of course, they are working together along with Kat's team to take down vampires who pose a violent danger to human society for the U.S. government. They are working for a secret branch of Department of Homeland Security for which they dispensed justice to vampires and ghouls who got out of line. Simply put, they protected those the regular confines of the law could not. While this is Kat's dream job and has been for the last 5 years, Bones is only doing this to help protect her and to help keep her safe. Besides, he only just got her back after being apart for most of those years. He was not going to risk losing her now. It has been approximately 5 months since the events of One Foot in the Grave, 5 months since their vampire wedding, where they pledged their lives to one another on the spot in front of hundreds of witnesses. We catch up with the couple during a transitional time. Bones has just officially proposed to Kat with a stunning 5-carat red diamond, and a major security breach has now left Kat and her Uncle Don no choice but to move their operation from Virginia to a new compound in Tennessee. What was this security breach? Kat's vicious father, Max, or Maximilian, not satisfied with the way Ian, his sire, handled things at the end of the last book. Max decides that he doesn't care if he starts a vampire war. He wants to eliminate Kat by any means necessary. Max gets his prayers answered in the form of a mysterious benefactor who hired Max to take out Kat. You see, Kat's cover is completely blown. Her reputation precedes her. By this point, it is even becoming unsafe for her to go out into the field. Her name is beginning to be heard by a lot of powerful vampires, and ghouls for that matter. This mysterious benefactor is working with Max to end Kat once and for all, and Max, having no regard for Kat's life, her and her mother Justina before Kat nearly succumbs to her wounds. He is able to find Justina's location and lure Kat over to the house, where he proceeds to them. If it were not for Bones arriving to Justina's house just in the nick of time, Kat would have bled out due to Max ripping out her entire throat. These scenes for me are very interesting, as Justina is perched on a chair, subdued and bound by her neck. She is forced to watch the vampire who impregnated her cut chunks off of their daughter, forced to listen as he taunts the both of them. But something happens between mother and daughter in this moment. She pleads for her daughter's life, offering herself up instead. Before this, Justina did not tell Kat ever that she loved her or treat her with much kindness. Before this, whenever Justina looked at Kat, all she saw was her father. The same red hair, the same gray eyes, the same face really. All her life, Kat had to deal with her mother's resentful looks and her outright resentful demeanor. Needless to say, something changed here for Justina, and when they were saved by Bones, I sensed a hint of gratitude for not only saving her daughter, but gratitude that Bones also saved her. While we're on the subject of Justina, in this book, we see a huge shift in her. because not only is she finally ready to admit that her sexual encounter with Kat's dad was consensual, but she also began a sexual relationship with a good friend, a very close associate of Bones, Rodney, the ghoul. Rodney and Justina wind up sharing something special, not just sexually. We see changes in other characters as well. Tate, for example, once subtle about his feelings for Kat, has now begun to step on Bones' toes. He does not hesitate to make his feelings for Kat plain and clear. If that's not uncomfortable enough, Bones has turned Tate, at Don and Tate's request of course, but he has turned Tate, becoming Tate's sire. It would put Tate in a compromising situation if he continues to pursue Kat. Tate is now a vampire, working for Kat and Don, but sired by Bones. Tate is not the only one from the team who turns in this book. Juan, who Kat recruited from prison doing a 20-year bid, was up next. He noted one day soon after he turned that his new state made women even more appealing to him, their scent, their taste, becoming that much more intoxicating to him. Kat even thinks he'll have a harem within a week. Bones siring him raises the number of supernatural creatures on the government's payroll to 4. 1 vampire-human hybrid, which is Kat, 1 ghoul, Dave, and 2 vampires, Tate and Juan. More is revealed about Menkeres, Bones' grandsire and Ian's sire in this book. Menkeres is Bones' co-ruler of their vampire line. They merged their lines together when Menkeres shared his powers with Bones. This forged a bond that went even deeper than the connection between a vampire and their sire. It was called Cain's Legacy. It refers to a gift of power traced back to Cain, the first vampire who God cursed forever to drink blood as penance for spilling Abel's. In the last book, we learn that like Bones who can fly, Menkeres has special abilities as well. He has the power of telekinesis, and he can also read human thoughts. Even Kat's hybrid status does not protect her thoughts from Menkeres. He is also known for his visions, little glimpses of the future. In fact, he saw war brewing on the horizon. In this book, we learn that Menkeres' age dates way back to ancient Egypt, and we also learn that the mysterious benefactor who is behind the latest attempts on Kat's life is Menkeres' wife, whom he himself sired. Her name is Patra, daughter of Cleopatra. Although she is not as old as Menkeres, she is about 2,000 years old, powerful in her own right. Her followers believe that she is the reincarnation of Isis and goddess of the world. Patra has it out for Kat simply because she wants to deal a crippling blow to Bones, thus making him easier for her to eliminate. What I find crazy is Menkeres can end this. However, he chooses not to do so himself. Instead, he decides to join his vampire line with Bones in a formal ceremony in front of hundreds of supernatural creatures, further cementing their alliance. He also decides to share his powers with Bones, making Bones even more powerful for the fight to come. Bones can now read minds, including Kat's. As you can imagine, this becomes a point of contention in their relationship. But aside from that, his vision and hearing are even clearer, and his strength has multiplied. Menkeres later reveals to Bones that long ago, he had a vision which he shared with Patra, his wife. The vision was of a woman who was neither vampire, ghoul, or human. That woman, we now know to be Kat, married the man in that vision, Bones. What threatens Patra so much is that Menkeres saw that the man who marries this creature, Kat, is also the man who wields the knife that ultimately finishes Patra. So when Bones and Kat gets married at the end of the last book, her hybrid status signals to Patra that Bones is the man from Menkeres' vision all those years ago. So she was ready to get him before he got her. In their fight against Patra, we are introduced to Vlad, who also hates Patra, ironically. History and pop culture knows him as Dracula, But Kat made a friend in the mind-reading, fire-toting Vlad Tepesh, even though it turns out that Vlad and Bones are not very fond of one another. She learns quite a bit about Vlad, the man who legends are made of. She learns that he is a complex man, complex as far as his history as a leader and as a man who is mourning his long-lost love. Nonetheless, Patra pulls out all the stops, so much so that Bones, Menkeres, Ian, Kat, Tate, Denise, her husband Randy, the entire entourage had to run away together to a remote section of Canada as they figured out what their next steps against Patra would be. Meanwhile, Patra orders kamikaze-style attacks on Bones' people. She even uses magic spells to attack Kat in her dreams. We get to see what Kat is made of when Patra convinces Kat that Bones has died. Bones, Ian, Rodney, and Spade attempted to intercept one of Patra's men, but that man was accompanied by several master vampires. The group wound up getting separated, and Bones was the only one who did not make it back. Kat assumes that Bones is dead because when she called Bones' cell phone, Patra answered, asking her if she was the widow she heard so much about. Yes, Kat leans into her grief at first. She has lost the love of her life. It is as if her heart was ripped out of her chest, but she rallies. Kat inherits everything, including the entirety of Bones' vampire line. She was their new master. She claims her place as leader of the line in a formal ceremony backed by Menkeres, Ian, Spade, and Vlad. There were challenges, however. So, to cement herself, Kat told each vampire who challenged her that they had to fight her for their freedom. They charged Kat, and she answered challenge after challenge, dispatching vampires left and right who once sworn their fealty to Bones. But Kat had a statement to make. Although she inherited this line from her husband, she would be a worthy leader. And after shriveling up her 8th vampire, no one there can deny that Kat was their rightful leader. Kat didn't stay their leader for too long though, because as it turns out, Bones was not dead. He was alive, and he was able to make his way back to his love. He was able to make his way back to Kat. In Patra's final attack, she raised the dead to come from graves within 100 miles of the area. She essentially raised a zombie army and storms the castle where our protagonists were holed up. At Patra's behest, the grave came for them on this night, cutting down their allies and their friends. The attack eventually resulted in Randy's demise. Randy, Denise's husband, was torn apart piece by piece at the hands of Patra's zombie army. Denise is heartbroken naturally, and Kat's heart breaks for her friend. They were able to end Patra's army in an instant when Vlad uses his pyrokinesis power to burn the magical object which cursed them. This magical object guided the army of the dead to their location. Finally, Menkeres decides to use his powers to find Patra. He then transports all of their people to Patra's location. They prevailed against Patra in the end, fulfilling the prophecy that Menkeres had all those years ago. Bones ended Patra with a silver blade to the heart, bringing her to justice for all the lives she ended, human and otherwise. They all watched as she shriveled, then withered away. We end the story with the lovers once again prevailing. Bones becomes more powerful, absorbing Patra's fortune, while Kat focuses on being there for her friend. Continuing to find solace and love in the arms of one another, Kat and Bones take the next step in their relationship. An actual traditional wedding was on the horizon, and Kat has officially given up her job. What was once a dream was now in the rearview mirror as life's adventures continue to unravel for the two.